A long time ago, a powerful faction forcibly extracted resources from divine ruins. These ancient relics, once thought to be beyond reach, were now the source of their ambition. But within these ruins stood guardians. They wouldn't let just anyone pass through. Yet, as always, the powerful faction forced their way through. Enraged by their defiance, the guardians unleashed their wrath, calling forth the ancient monsters that had long slumbered in the depths of the ruins. The ancient monsters, creatures of immense power and fury, rise from the shadows. Massive, terrifying beings with scales and wings, glowing with mystical energy. Their presence disrupts the environment, sending shockwaves through the ruins. The workers panic as they try to flee, but the monsters are relentless. The guardians stand tall, watching as the creatures successfully chase the miners away, ensuring no one would dare return again. Even though the monsters lived in the land of humans, they were out of place and able to survive in water and earth, their true forms fading away. The monster begins to transform, its physical shape shifting into something more ethereal. Gradually, they adapted, becoming spiritual bodies, able to blend into the human world undetected. One of the monsters is shown merging with a human host, quietly taking control. Now, they silently latch onto chosen hosts, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. Even now, in the modern world, the Guardians continue to punish humans for forcing their way into mining the ruins, even though it happened long ago. Recently, there have been many cases of mutated life forms harming humans. Just as a monstrous creature, fierce and aggressive, appears on the TV screen, sending a wave of concern through the city. An announcement can be heard, residents of surrounding areas, please stay alert and stay safe. People in the rain stop and look up, their faces filled with fear. Inside the train, amidst the crowd of passengers, stands a guy with his headset on, immersed in music. This is Qin Xi, a recent graduate who has just stepped into society. Not much talent, his major was a mess, and he had planned to play around for 2 more years until his family chased him out. Like most people, he came to Qi City to eke out a living. Suddenly, in the middle of the crowded train, the soldier remains asleep, snoring lightly despite the chaos around him. The monstrous figure, with its glowing eyes and sharp grin, towers over him, its menacing presence starkly contrasting with the peaceful oblivion of the soldier. Oblivious to the growing danger, the soldier sleeps soundly, completely unaware of the terrifying creature looming just beside him. Fear spreads through the train as passengers spot the monstrous creature behind the sleeping soldier. Eyes widen and terror grips their faces, some too shocked to move. Panic erupts as the creature's presence is fully realized. Chinshi, finally waking, is met with the screams of terrified passengers as the chaos unfolds around him. Amidst the panic, Chinshi, still shaken, yells out in frustration, "Hey! What the hell? Watch out, but it's too late." The scene reveals the lifeless body of the soldier on the floor, a dark pool of blood spreading beneath him. The creature, now gone, has left its mark on the unfortunate victim. In this kind of environment, it's hard not to feel a bit irritable as the chaos escalates, leaving everyone on edge. After the soldier's life was taken, the monster went berserk. With a deafening roar, it cried out, "Demolish, demolish." The scene shows the creature rampaging through the train, its glowing eyes filled with rage. The force of its power rips through the surroundings as passengers scream in terror and scramble to escape. The once calm train is now a battleground, as the creature wreaks havoc, destroying everything in its path. The passengers, in a state of shock and fear, realize the truth as one cries out, "It's a mutated life form, an evil mutated life form." The ancient monsters latched onto human bodies in the form of spirits, turning them into mutated life forms. The creature's monstrous face snarls as it roars, "This place must be demolished." After growing evil in their hearts and taking over their bodies, the creatures go completely berserk, causing destruction wherever they roam. The mutated creature roars, "Those who obstruct me will die." As chaos spreads further through the train, the passengers panic, some trying to escape, while others scream in fear. One voice shouts, "The mutated creature is killing humans." Amid the chaos, one passenger realizes in horror, "Mutated life form? It's different from what I see in videos. I really saw a real one this time." As the creature continues its rampage, an announcement echoes through the train. "The train is approaching the next station. Please mind your safety. We are arriving at." As the monster's rampage intensifies, passengers are thrown out through the windows, helpless against the creature's power. The train becomes a scene of pure chaos, with shattered glass flying everywhere and screams echoing through the air. Outside, on the train platform, people stand frozen in shock as they witness bodies being thrown from the train, unable to comprehend the nightmare unfolding before them. Panic sets in as they scramble, not knowing how to escape the terror that has now reached them. Inside the train, chaos continues as people shout, "Bastard! He's coming! Get out of the way!" Chinshi, desperately trying to escape the madness, pushes his way through the crowd, his face tense with urgency as the threat looms closer. On the platform, panic spreads as people shout, "Run!" A crazy mutated life form is inside. The crowd scatters in every direction, screaming for help as terror fills the air. One woman cries out, "Yah, save me!" Chaos erupts as the monster continues its relentless attack, sending everyone into a frenzy. Several lifeless bodies lie scattered across the floor, the destruction left by the creature's fury unmistakable. Its terrifying roars of demolish fill the air, echoing through the wreckage it has caused. Qin Xi, now surrounded by the chaos and destruction, finds himself trapped, helpless against the monstrous force that seems unstoppable. Facing Qin Xi, the creature roars with fury, its voice echoing through the wreckage, "Demolish and expand, flatten graves and reclaim land." The monster's vicious words only heighten the terror as it looms over Qin Xi, the destruction continuing relentlessly. With a sharp gaze, Qin Xi mutters under his breath, "What bad luck! I ran into a professional demolition thug, evil gangs." His eyes narrow as he observes the creature's chaotic behavior. This guy must have been too overly emotional and became parasitized. With his eyes fixed on the door, Chinshi thinks to himself, "The door is over there. I have to find an opportunity to escape." But as he considers his next move, a voice breaks through the chaos, "Grandma, I'm scared." Turning, he sees the old woman comforting a child. "It's okay, Grandma is here." With determination in his voice, Chinshi whispers, "Hey, Grandma, I will lure him away. You guys take the opportunity to escape." The old woman, worried, asks, "What about you?" As Chinshi braces himself for what's ahead, he says with a smirk, "Don't mind me, I used to be in my university's track and field." He continues with a slight chuckle, "Though I didn't win anything." At the same time, as Chinshi is trying to lure the monster, a pair of eyes watches from a dark place. The ominous figure chuckles, hey, ha." With a sinister grin, it mutters, "I finally found you, the young man from that time." Then Chinshi tried to throw something into the monster's face to lure it away from old woman and her grandchild. As the monster is distracted by the object thrown into its face, Chin seizes the opportunity. His heart races as he darts forward, his legs moving with all his might, escaping just in time from the creature's grasp. With every step, the distance between them grows, but his mind is already preparing for what lies ahead. With the monster still focused on the child and the old woman, Chin quickly turns back, shouting at the beast, "Look here!" Idiot! His eyes burn with defiance, hoping his challenge will draw the monster's attention long enough to give them a chance to escape. As Chin turns to look back, thinking his distraction worked, his confidence falters when he hears a deafening growl. Before he can react, the monster swings its massive arm, slamming its fist right into Chin's head. "Hey!" He gasps in shock as his world spins, realizing too late that his plan had backfired. As the monster continues to shout, "Demolish!" its massive hand grabs Chin by the collar, lifting him effortlessly off the ground. Chin's face is filled with shock and dread as he struggles, realizing too late that he was too slow to escape the beast's deadly grip. I was too slow, he curses under his breath, his heart racing as the monstrous creature looms over him. As the monster continues its rampage, distracted by Qin Xi's challenge, the scene shifts to the train platform where the old woman and her granddaughter have managed to escape. Help, there's still a survivor, someone shouts as they rush to safety. The scene switches back to Qin as he turns to face the monster. A powerful blow lands, throwing him off balance. Blood spatters from his mouth as the impact makes his vision blur. Pain radiates through his body, and he grits his teeth, struggling to stay on his feet. UGH, he grunts, fighting through the dizziness. The monster attacked again with its sharp claws, sending Qin flying through the air. As he crashed to the ground, his eyes bulged, blood splattered from his mouth, and he was overcome with intense pain. After being hit, Qin grits his teeth, his body shaking with pain as he struggles to stay conscious. His vision blurs and the words escape him through clenched teeth. I miscalculated. He breathes heavily, his body battered and bruised from the monster's relentless attacks. As Qin's vision fades, and he's on the verge of collapse, the darkness begins to close in. He mutters in the end, I'm going to die, the words barely escaping his lips. The little girl tugs at the soldier's sleeve, panic in her voice. Big brother is still in there. The old woman shouts, save him quickly. As they hurry the woman and child to safety, another soldier shouts, hurry up and bring them to safety. The soldier in black speaks, his voice commanding, this mutated life form will be handed over to the security department. He turns to his team, glaring at them with a stern warning, no one is to act rashly. Yes, the soldiers respond in unison, fully alert and ready for orders. Suddenly, a dark and ominous force sweeps through the air. It moves like a shadow, swirling with black energy and glowing sparks. The eerie form hovers above the fallen bodies, an unnatural presence, seeking to possess one of them. The air grows thick with tension as the spirit draws closer, its malevolent intent unmistakable. Qin, barely conscious, lies motionless on the ground. His vision is blurry as he gasps for breath. A faint grimace crosses his face as his fingers twitch. To think I would experience this kind of thing, he murmurs, barely able to speak. He clenches his fist, his hand trembling with determination, despite the pain. As the mutated monster looms over him, he grits his teeth, muttering, I'm so unwilling. How can I fall just like this? His mind races with frustration. I'm still at the start of my life, he thinks, unwilling to accept his fate. As Qin's consciousness fades, a blurry memory surfaces through his mind. This child is beyond hope. Look at the neighbor's son, little Sue. The words echo in his mind, a distant conversation from his past. Younger Qin stands amidst a group of peers, who tease and shove him around. One of them, grinning, taunts, come, let's be friends. Qin, irritated by their mockery, thinks to himself, what an infuriating life. He also recalls the moments when he courted someone he liked, only to face rejection. The memory stings as the people around him start to mock, laughing at his failed attempts. Chinshi coughs up blood, his body shaking with pain. His breath comes in ragged gasps, but his eyes burn with defiance. He grit his teeth. I can't fall, not like this. He muttered, I must win even just once. The monster towers over Chinshi, its massive, muscular form radiating with raw power. Red, glowing eyes burn with fury, and a twisted snarl exposes sharp, jagged teeth. Its clenched fist, ready to strike, ripples with violent energy. Unbeknownst to both the monster and Chinshi, a golden, spirit-like aura speeds towards them from the distance. The mysterious force moves with incredible speed, its glowing energy cutting through the air as it approaches. Chinshi, drenched in sweat and blood, channels every ounce of his remaining strength. His body shakes, but his will remains unbroken. With his eyes closed, he shouts with all his might, live and win. He braces himself, preparing to face the monster's devastating blow, fueled by sheer determination. Just as the monster's fist is about to land, a golden, spirit-like figure suddenly appears above Chinshi, its powerful aura ready to possess him. The energy surges toward Chinshi, enveloping him in a whirlwind of power. As it enters his body, he is filled with a sudden surge of strength, his exhaustion melting away. His expression hardens with focus as the force takes root within him. Inside Chenxi's mind, the golden aura begins to materialize into a form another monstrous figure, its eyes glowing with a familiar intensity. It speaks to him as if they share a deep, unspoken bond, its voice echoing like an old, long-forgotten memory. Chenxi's eyes widen in shock as the powerful force takes hold of him. His breath catches, and in a moment of clarity, he gasps in realization. Is this an illusion? The overwhelming energy pulses, and his voice rings out with a chilling certainty as the truth dawns on him. An illusion after death? Chenshi trembles as the dark, liquid-like substance wraps around him, merging with his body. Jagged shapes form, but he's barely aware of the transformation. His mind is clouded, still convinced it's just an illusion as the overwhelming force takes control. The monstrous figure lunges forward, its claws slashing through the air with terrifying speed and power. Its glowing red eyes lock onto Chenshi, burning with rage as it closes in for the kill. But in an instant, everything changes. Fully transformed, Chenshi retaliates with a fierce, determined punch. As the monster's massive blow comes crashing down, Chenshi, now fully transformed, meets it head-on. With a surge of power, their fists collide with a resounding impact. The force sends shockwaves through the air, and the ground trembles beneath them. For a split second, time seems to freeze as the intensity of their clash echoes around them. Chenshi smirks confidently, his eyes glinting with fierce determination. The transformation has fully taken hold of him, and his new form radiates power. With a low, dangerous growl, he faces the monster, ready to push the fight to the next level. He grins. What I can give you is hope. Chapter 2. As Chenshi's transformation reaches its peak, his fist collides with the monster's, the force so overwhelming that the monster cannot withstand it. Its right arm is obliterated in the impact, leaving behind a trail of destruction as it reels from the devastating blow. Fully transformed, Chenxi's claws glow with ominous power as he raises them, preparing to strike. He smirks, the power coursing through him. Chenshi grinning darkly, these are the claws that can sever the connection between a person and their parasitic spirit. With a sinister laugh, Chenshi raises his claws in the air, the energy surging through them. Chenshi laughing maniacally, ya ha ha ha, time for some surgery. He slashes through the air, the claws cutting through the space around him with violent force, ready to deliver another devastating blow. With a wild grin on his face, he raises his clawed hand, aiming it at the monster in front of him. He laughs and says, "You are free now." The monster reels back in confusion, only to be met with a powerful slash from Chenshi. The air cracks with the force of the attack, and a dramatic burst of energy surrounds him. He completes the strike. After delivering the powerful strike, the parasitic spirit that had been controlling the human body falters. The dark force begins to unravel, severing its bond with the now vulnerable body. As the spirit is torn away, it hovers above the body. The once monstrous figure collapses, now reverting back to its original human form, free from the parasitic grasp. Freed from the parasitic spirit, the human's body lies still as the transformation slowly unravels. The once monstrous figure now reverts back to a frail, unconscious state. His breath is shallow and his body trembles slightly, the shock of the ordeal overwhelming him. Suddenly, the spirit that once possessed the human's body emerges. It forms into a translucent figure, glowing with an eerie blue light. The spirit hovers above the still body, free from its previous host. As Chenshi's parasitic form calls upon the spirit, he grins maliciously and says, "Ho ho, hello there." The defeated spirit, now disoriented and weakened, stares back in shock and fear, realizing the true force behind this call. The translucent blue spirit, clearly frightened, suddenly darts away from Chenshi's parasitic form, With a burst of energy, it races through the air, desperately trying to flee as far and fast as possible, its eerie red eyes wide with fear. With a wicked grin, the parasitic form eyes the fleeing spirit and laughs menacingly. Food, high-quality food. The spirit's desperate attempt to escape only fuels his hunger, as he chases it with wild anticipation. Grinning maliciously, his parasitic form bares its fangs wide, its eyes locked on the trembling spirit. I won't hold back then. The air crackles with energy as he lunges, ready to consume the blue spirit with a ferocity that sends shivers through the atmosphere. Suddenly, in one swift motion, he pounces. The spirit's scream is cut off as it is swallowed whole. The parasitic form licks its lips, savoring the power that now surges through him. Yahahaha, so disgusting. The spirit is completely consumed, its presence now a mere memory as the parasitic form absorbs all its energy. As Chinchi's parasitic form finishes savoring the last remnants of the blue spirit, he turns his attention to the approaching soldiers. Their weapons are aimed and the tension in the air is palpable. Target is ahead. One of the soldiers shouts, but his parasitic form only looks at the soldiers. With a glance, he looked at the approaching soldiers. The security department, he says, his voice tinged with annoyance. His face shows clear disinterest, as if he has no desire to engage with them. Yet he remains still, not moving a muscle, clearly wanting to avoid any conflict. As the soldiers advances, Chinchi's parasitic form begins to feel something shifting within. With a slight shudder, the human form of Chinshi begins to emerge, his face now breaking through the parasitic features. His parasitic form mutters, "No, not at this very critical moment." Suddenly, he notices his reflection in the glass before him. Staring at his own appearance, he is momentarily taken aback. His human side now fully emerges, revealing a mix of disbelief and realization. He looks at himself and says, "Wait, what? Is that me?" As Chinchi's parasitic form looks at his reflection, his human side fully emerges. Stunned, he clutches his head and exclaims, "What is going on?" His expression reflects disbelief as he sees himself, struggling to understand the sudden change. Chinshi, still in disbelief, feels his shock deepen. He gestures to his head, unable to comprehend what's happening to him. What's happening to me? What have I done?" he exclaims, clearly panicked. His eyes then fall to the horns on his head, and his confusion intensifies. Why are there horns on my head? In front of him, one of the soldiers comments with a baffled tone, "Which manga is this cosplay outfit from?" The soldiers, clearly confused and caught off guard by the scene, scanning the figure before them. This doesn't seem like part of the mission. Then, Chinshi noticed the passed-out guy beside him and was shocked. His eyes widened as he looked at the man on the ground, the realization dawning on him. With a sharp intake of breath, his gaze shifted to his own claws, now stained with the evidence of his transformation. His voice trembled. "I did this." The shock of his actions left him frozen in place, struggling to comprehend the chaos he had caused. Still reeling from the transformation, he freezes, the parasite's words echoing in his mind. He stares at his hands, the weight of the situation sinking in. "Does it mean I've been parasitized?" he murmurs, his voice shaking with disbelief. The parasite responds coolly, "Now you know, I was the one who saved your life." Chinshi glares at the unconscious figure, his voice rising in frustration. "You killed that person." The parasitic spirit scoffs, its voice dripping with sarcasm. "You dumbass, he's just unconscious." As the tension rises, one of the soldiers suddenly shouts, "Fire! Fire!" Without warning, the soldiers unleash a barrage of gunfire, the air around them crackling with the sound of rapid shots. The blast echoes through the room, aimed straight at their target. The soldiers open fire, bullets slicing through the air towards Chinshi. Still in shock, he freezes, but his parasitic form moves instinctively. In a blur, he dodges the shots with unnatural speed, energy crackling around him. He avoids the barrage. "Is this what I become?" Chinshi thinks as his parasitic form deflects the fire, sending sparks flying. Still grappling with the chaotic situation, Chenxi's eyes widen as he feels the parasite's control over him. His body moves against his will, and in a surge of frustration, he shouts, "You are controlling my body. Who are you?" As his words echo through the room, the parasite remains silent, its presence palpable, leaving Chenxi trapped in his own body, desperate for answers. After a brief silence, the parasitic spirit calmly responds, "Let's get away first." Chenxi winces as the hit lands, and with a frustrated growl, he mutters, "I got hit." The parasitic spirit, almost nonchalant, replies, "It seems like we haven't perfectly synchronized yet." Chenxi flinches, his body trembling from the impact. He spins around, his eyes wide with surprise and confusion, his face flushed with embarrassment. "It tickles," he exclaims as the shot hits him in the ass. One soldier, noticing the tranquilizer has had no effect, shouts, "The tranquilizer's not working." Another soldier, unfazed, quickly gives the order, "Use the shock grenade and stun him." As the soldiers fire the shock grenade at him, the parasitic spirit says, "Leave it to me." With a swift motion, he deflects the grenade, sending it back toward the soldiers, where it strikes them. With a powerful burst, Chenxi breaks through the side of the train, shards of glass flying in all directions. As he makes his escape, he turns and gives one last glance, smirking. "See ya," he calls out, his voice laced with defiance. Chenxi speeds up, dashing and leaping out of the train, quickly scaling the building's exterior. With the soldiers still stunned from the shock grenade, he makes his escape, leaving them unable to react as he vanishes into the distance. The air around him hums with energy as he speeds away. As the smoke clears, the soldiers begin to recover, shaking off the effects of the shock grenade. One by one, they stand and regroup. "Get up! Move! Move!" A soldier commands, helping a teammate to his feet. As the soldiers recover, a blonde-haired officer steps into view, accompanied by a dog with glowing blue eyes. The soldiers greet her, "Good morning, infantry captain." The soldiers stand firm, greeting the infantry captain, but she walks past them, ignoring their honorifics. She heads directly toward the train, asking in a serious tone, "What's the situation inside? Has he been caught?"
As the captain and her mutant dog step into the train, she immediately takes in the scene, a chaotic mess of smoke, tension, and failure. Her sharp eyes scan the fallen debris and winded soldiers, piecing together what happened before her arrival. One of her subordinates, still catching his breath, turns to face her. "How is it? Did you catch him?" she asks, her voice calm but heavy with expectation. "The target is extremely agile. He trails off, his words dissolving into the dense silence of failure. The captain remains composed. She doesn't scold. She doesn't sigh. Instead, her eyes narrow with resolve. This chase isn't over. Not by a long shot. The captain sighs. Her eyes lock onto the soldier as she says, "I wanted to give you a chance to prove yourself, but you're really a disappointment." The mutant dog walks over to the unconscious man, sniffing him. Then, it turns its head toward the hole in the train, the one the protagonist escaped through. Noticing her dog's reaction, the captain walks closer and says to it, "We're short on time. We need results as soon as possible." The dog responds, "I've noticed you always hunch over when talking to me. It looks exhausting. I might as well change back." The mutant dog begins to shiver. Its mouth opens wide, like it's in pain. In a matter of seconds, its body starts to morph, taking on a human-like form with pointy ears. Its blue eyes widen, still growling and trembling, baring sharp teeth. After a few moments, the transformation is complete. The creature now fully resembles a human. It turns out the dog was human all along, a being with the ability to transform. This ability, parasitic in nature, allows him to shift into a dog with enhanced senses. Far beyond an ordinary canine, he can identify targets with unnatural precision. The captain turns to the newly transformed mutant and says, "It seems like your animal form is more approachable." The mutant smirks and replies, "Is that so? In this form, Not only is communication easier, but we can also show mutual respect. As they discussed what happened at the scene, the two stood by a shattered train window, their reflections framed by the broken glass. The captain, her sharp gaze unwavering, questioned, "What about the distance?" Her tone was calm but laced with suspicion, hinting at something beyond human capability. The mutant, with a cool demeanor and slightly disheveled look, responded with quiet certainty. The claw marks and the nature of the conflict at the scene, it should be him. His words carried weight, almost as if he could sense the entity behind the chaos. Below them, the rumble of the tracks echoed faintly as he added, "A newly formed spirit that has just possessed a human body is highly unstable. It couldn't have." His voice trailed off, leaving the implication lingering in the air. The captain stood firm, her commanding presence unshaken even in the dim light of the station. "Looks like we still need you, Grand Mystic," she stated coldly. "The Security Bureau is full of useless trash. They might as well be dismissed." Her words carried weight, laced with frustration and truth. Then, with a subtle shift in tone, she added, "Meanwhile, I could really use a talent like you by my side, Bu Feng." Bu Feng remained composed, hands loosely in his coat pockets. His smirk was faint but unmistakable. "Forget it, I'm not omnipotent. I'm not good at everything." His response wasn't just modesty, it was caution. Despite his power, he had no interest in politics or being used as a tool. The captain respected that, but the unspoken tension between duty and restraint was beginning to show. Bu Feng continued, "Every mystic has their own unique abilities. We're born different from normal people, so it's not convenient for us to join any particular organization." Then he said, "Wait a moment." As he began walking toward his seat inside the train and sat down, the captain followed him and said in a serious tone, "This is not the time to relax. We need to solve this as soon as possible." Bu Feng, on the other hand, signaled for her to keep quiet. He was sensing the energy of the parasite. Bu Feng closes his eyes and started to focusing his energy around him. White smoke started to gather around him as he started to track the newly appeared parasite. As he focuses his energy, he then started to sense the parasite that is trying to get as far as it can. Bu Feng started to see the buildings where his target has been passing by. After some time, he finally sees the target as it slowly to decapitate, returning to its human form. Back to Bu Feng, his sweat started to show in his forehead. He keeps sensing the parasite, but as he keeps going, a very large and strong beast appears as if it's going to swallow him. The beast opens its eyes as if it was very delightful, like a puppy seeing something delicious to eat. Its tongue starts to lick all over like it was very excited to taste its prey. Bu Feng, his eyes and mouth open wide. His face shows a very scared individual trying to get away from something. The reason to this is that the beast that has been tracking has actually noticed his spirit. Hence, it shows a very delightful face. Then the beast started to speak. "Your tracking technique is way too creepy, but I am sure you will taste very sweet." The beast started attacking the spirit that was tracking him. Due to this, Bu Feng's spirit that was tracking the beast went back to his body. Foam started to come out from his mouth as if he's going to pass out any moment. He almost can't bear the consequences of tracking the beast. The captain noticed Bu Feng and rushed over to him. Bu Feng had knelt down and was vomiting. His condition was due to the overwhelming presence of the energy emitted by the beast he had been tracking. As the captain ran toward Bu Feng, she ordered a nearby soldier to immediately notify the medics. The soldier responded affirmatively and ran as fast as he could. The captain grabbed Bu Feng by the collar and urgently asked him for the exact location of the beast. Bu Feng, his face drenched in sweat and saliva dripping from his mouth, muttered, District 9. The captain then raised her left hand, shouted, and called out, Flying squirrel! A man, surrounded by crackling lightning, suddenly appeared, kneeling in front of the captain. "At your command, Captain," he said. She gave the flying squirrel an order to pursue the new beast spirit. The beast spirit confirmed the command and began the chase. Lightning surged around the flying squirrel's body before he vanished into the distance, leaving only a trail of dust and electricity behind. After the flying squirrel had departed, the captain smiled and muttered, "When it comes to speed, no one can outrun the flying squirrel." The flying squirrel was one of the department's spirit-possessed humans, and he was under her command. Back to our protagonist. The boy is pacing, frustrated. He's had enough of this uninvited guest in his body. He mutters, then suddenly barks out loud. "Hey, how long are you planning to occupy my body?" The parasite doesn't flinch. No apology, no remorse. Just a cool, almost smug reply in his head. "We are one now. I'm already a part of your body now, like your limbs. We can't be separated." And then, they just keep leaping across city buildings' rooftops like a human slingshot. They're fast. Impossibly fast. With each landing, concrete cracks and sparks fly. The city below is a blur. Glass buildings reflect his streaking silhouette as he vaults from one high-rise to the next. But not everyone's having fun. Chinshi muttered. "I mean, you keep jumping between buildings. I feel sick, and I'm afraid of heights." The creature leaps effortlessly onto the rooftop, its claws scraping against stone as dust and rubble scatter behind it. Below, a narrow alley stretches like the throat of a beast, dark, silent, and waiting. It's not safe down there. Who knows what sorcerer might be tracking us? The voice came from within, the ever-watchful spirit bound to him. Cautious, always. The alley may appear empty, but in a world veiled by magic and malice, appearances deceive. Sorcery clings to the air like scent on the wind, subtle but deadly. But our boy snaps, shouting, "Get down! I want to get down!" Mid-leap between towering rooftops, his voice echoes far louder than it should. "Idiot!" the spirit barks inside his head. "We're mid-air. Do you want to crash and die? Stop flailing." But it's too late. His squirming throws off their balance. With a chaotic twist and zero grace, they slam into a sign, bounce off a wall, then ricochet through a line of AC units like pinballs on fire. Down they go. Crashing into the alley floor below with a violent boom, a plume of smoke and debris chases the impact like an afterthought. They don't move for a few seconds. Then comes the groan. That hurt more than it looked. He pushes himself up from the rubble, claws digging into the cracked pavement. His breath is ragged, armor chipped, pride shattered. "That hurt like hell," he growls, spitting blood, fangs barely retracting. His tone is less about pain, more about annoyance. The spirit inside scoffs. "Serves you right, idiot. Who told you to panic mid-air?" The silhouette of his spirit beast is showing up, annoyed. It scolds him sharply, its glowing eyes and jagged form radiating frustration. "Ah, Tilda. You stubborn fool. If it weren't for my outer armor cushioning you, you'd be dead," it growls, barely masking its irritation. Chinshi, clearly wounded and straining to stand, grits his teeth. The beast continues. "Great, now the skin's gone. It'll take a while to recover. Get it together. You're on your own for now." The tone is both scornful and begrudgingly concerned. implying a strong bond built on mutual survival, not sentiment. Then our stubborn hero stands up, still feeling the pain and barely able to walk, and says, "It's none of your business." His spirit beast then shouts, "Hey, you're going the wrong way." Around the corner, an old man dressed like a beggar, with a piece of bread stuck in his mouth, is being pursued by two soldiers. He shouts to them, pleading for mercy, saying he hasn't eaten in days. Over on the left corner, Qin Xi was just about to step out from the small alley they fell into when he noticed the two soldiers chasing after the old man. As he looked at them, sweat started dripping down his face, and a flicker of fear showed in his eyes. Then, the silhouette of the old beggar and the two soldiers chasing him passes by the corridor, still pursuing the hungry man. Meanwhile, in a dark side of the alley, Qin Xi sighed, closed his eyes, and says, "Phew, at least they are not after me." He then opens the lid of the trash bin he's hiding in and starts looking around to see if there are still any soldiers nearby. He just wants to stay safe. It'd be a real headache if any of them were still around and spotted him. Meanwhile, aside from being chased by soldiers, the city itself is still as busy as ever, unbothered, towering, and full of life. Chinshi and his spirit beast are still talking, trying to figure out their next move. "Where are we going next?" Chinshi asks, eyes scanning the distant skyline. His spirit beast responds calmly, "Head to the shelter first. You'll see a clock tower building when you get out of here." Qin Xi was walking through the crowd, blending in as best he could, but his mind was elsewhere. His spirit beast's voice echoed in his head, sharp and serious. "You can't go back home now. The security bureau won't miss a single detail. They'll even drill holes in your walls." "Huh?" Qin Xi mumbled, not slowing his pace but clearly distracted by the warning. The spirit beast continues, catching the subtle shift in his expression. "What is it? Do you have someone else at home?" Qin Xi didn't answer right away, but the tension in his step said enough. Then he walks through what they call the Red District, where a group of women are busy trying to seduce passing guys. One girl even bows beside him, and behind him a couple of pairs are already getting cozy. But despite all that, Qin Xi doesn't even flinch. His mind's somewhere else, completely consumed by worry. No, if I'd known, I would have deleted all those movies from my hard drive. The thought alone makes him cringe as embarrassment washes over him. They turned into another alley, one much quieter than the others. Hardly anyone was around, and trash was scattered everywhere, giving the whole place a grimy vibe. Qin Xi still looked distracted, clearly bothered by his own thoughts. Sensing it, the spirit beast scoffed, "You're still thinking about that at a time like this? Humans really are something." After a few seconds, Qin Xi kept walking deeper into the alley, his thoughts still swirling. But what they didn't know was, someone was watching them from above, hidden in the shadows. Suddenly, the silence shattered. Blinding flashes tore through the air, striking from above with ruthless precision. Qin Xi barely had time to react. His instincts flared, but the ambush was already in motion. From the shadows above, the hidden watcher revealed himself, not as a passive observer, but a calculated predator. And then, without hesitation, they dropped, closing the distance not with words, but with force, ready to end it face to face. Then, a human-like creature with glowing red eyes emerged, clinging upside down to a pipe like a monstrous bat. Its body hung unnaturally, tense and ready to strike, while its eyes locked onto Qin Xi with chilling intent. "Stand still where you are," it barked, its voice cutting through the air like a blade. Qin Xi froze, startled, as the creature let out a low, mocking laugh. "Ha ha ha, you're not getting away." The tension thickened, and just as the dust began to settle, it continued in a cold, commanding tone. "You're under arrest. Come with us." This wasn't a warning. It was a coordinated capture already in motion. It then decided to come down, and with a few swift backflips from the pipe, the creature landed effortlessly, kicking up dust with every silent step. The way it moved was unnatural, too fluid, too precise. Then, its voice rang out again, this time with a twisted offer. Or, hand over the spirit possessing your body and we'll give you back your freedom. That word, freedom, echoed, mocking and cold. Its red eyes burned with intensity, locking onto Qin Xi like a predator giving one final warning before the kill. As the tension thickened, it raised a jagged finger and added coldly, "If you know what's good for you, cooperate with me." Chinshi stood with a smug grin, eyes gleaming with mischief as he thought, "I know you can't accept this. We have to defeat them," the spirit urged in his mind. With a confident smirk, Chinshi replied aloud, "All right, I'm with you," locking eyes with the arresting officer. From within, the spirit screeched in disbelief. "What?" Chinshi muttered under his breath. "I meant cooperate." The arresting officer from the bureau stepped forward, expression cold and authoritative. "Good. Now, hands on your head, butt towards me. Kneel." The spirit erupted again, fuming with betrayal. You heartless jerk!" Suddenly, he launched a surprise attack, and as his body shot forward, Chinshi shouted, "You parasitic monster inside me!" He wasn't just striking at the enemy, he was calling on the spirit parasite within him, the very force that had altered his fate to help him. A blur of motion tore through the tension like a blade. His eyes blazed with defiance, and a grin of raw confidence lit his face. His fist carved a deadly arc through the air, momentum cracking like a whip. There was no hesitation, no fear, only pure, unyielding resolve. The enemy's eyes widened in shock just before the blow landed with bone-shattering force. But the enemy didn't even flinch. With terrifying ease, the arresting officer caught Chinshi's punch mid-air, his claw-like hand snapping around the young fighter's fist like a vice. The force behind the strike meant nothing to him. Crimson eyes glowed with contempt as the older man leaned in slightly, as if to mock the very idea that Qin Xi could harm him. The shock in Qin Xi's eyes flashed for a split second. He hadn't expected to be stopped so effortlessly. "Old tricks," the human-like creature scoffed, cracking his fingers with a menacing comb. "Boring little cunning moves." The sharp clack of his joints echoed like a countdown. Less a reaction, more a warning. Qin Xi's bold move had failed to impress, and worse, had provoked. But just when it seemed Qin Xi stood alone, the voice inside him burst out with unexpected joy. "Ha! I knew you weren't that kind of person," the spirit roared, his laughter brimming with manic glee. "This is the only weapon I can provide right now." With a surge of energy and swirling smoke, a gleaming crimson gauntlet materialized on Chinji's arm, alien, jagged, and pulsing with power. Qin Xi continues to attack his opponent, and with a serious face told his spirit parasite, quote, "Thanks a lot." Fueled by the spirit's weapon and his own resolve, Qin Xi lunged forward again, this time with purpose. His fist, now clad in the crimson gauntlet, tore through the air like a meteor. The enemy moved to catch it, just as effortlessly as before, but this time something changed. Clang! A jolt ran up the creature's arm. His confident expression flickered, eyes widening as he felt the force behind the blow. He caught it, but barely. "What?" the creature muttered, his voice laced with disbelief as cracks webbed across his palm where the gauntlet made contact. The mocking certainty in his glare was gone, replaced by a sliver of doubt. The beast snarled, shaking off the sting. But Chinshi didn't relent. With a burst of speed, he spun low, his momentum carrying him upward like a coiled spring unleashed. Crack! His punch connected squarely with the creature's chin, launching it skyward in a blur of force and fury. The shockwave tore through the ground, splintering the earth beneath them. But the creature wasn't down for long. It twisted mid-air, eyes glowing with rage and bloodlust, claws flaring with arcane energy. With a roar, it slammed into the ground, knees bent, claws digging into the stone as twin violet portals spiraled open behind it, runes ignited in the air, pulsing. It raised a claw, and the portal surged with power. He did this just to get back into his position and avoid being thrown more farther. Qin Xi stood in the lingering dust, eyes wide with wonder, a huge grin stretching across his face. He held up his hands, almost laughing. "Wow! This knuckle duster is awesome!" The spirit parasite immediately snapped. "That's not a knuckle duster, it's a claw!" Before Chinshi could reply, the spirit added with pride. "And not just any claw. It's a divine tool forged by my fellow spirit companions. You're lucky to even be wearing it." Chinshi's grin only widened. "Heh? Lucky me." The officer's voice boomed as he readied himself to charge, eyes blazing red behind his mask. "Attacking security personnel is a serious offense. Forced arrest is now in effect." But Chinshi didn't flinch. His glare sharpened, and his voice rang out, firm and defiant. "There's no way you're restricting my freedom, and handing you over would be so wrong." From within, the spirit parasite let out a satisfied chuckle. "Well said." Then, just as the tension threatened to explode, the officer suddenly froze, mid-motion, aura crackling but unmoving. Something in Chinshi's words had struck a nerve. The air between them held, stretched thin like a wire on the verge of snapping. But Chinshi didn't wait. He clenched his fists, grinned like a madman, and shouted to the skies, "Come and catch me if you can. I'll fight to the end." Crimson energy swirled around him like wildfire, his body practically vibrating with raw defiance. "Ha ha ha, I'm fired up," he roared, the air crackling as sparks burst from his armor. With a single leap, he launched himself forward. No hesitation, no fear. Just a boy against the system, blazing his own path. But just as Chinshi surged forward, a cold voice sliced through the tension like a blade. "You'll pay the price for your choice." The air trembled. From within the clash of steel and fury, his silhouette stood firm, face half shrouded in darkness, crimson eyes blazing with murderous intent. His presence was suffocating, like a black hole in the midst of war, draining the light from everything around him. The officer, still in his monstrous form, surged through the glowing purple trails created by his own speed. Just before, he had charged at Qin Xi, commanding him to surrender. Now, as he passed through the reinforced structure, Qin Xi stayed crouched below, steady and alert amid the scattering debris, trying to figure out where he was. As Qin Xi turned, his parasite burst out from behind him, eyes glowing yellow as it shouted a sharp warning to watch his back. Overhead, the officer came diving down at deadly speed, his monstrous form descending like a spear aimed straight for Qin Xi's exposed position. The officer's dive landed cleanly, his kick slamming into Qin Xi's side and sending a jolt of yellow energy across his body. Chinshi's eyes widened as he was knocked off balance, his body twisting from the force of the impact. All he could let out was a strained oof as he was sent flying. As the officer stood ready, calm and composed, Qin Xi faced him tensely, his body still recovering from the earlier blow. His parasite spoke sharply in his mind, noting how fast the opponent was and urging him to be more aggressive, specifically to target the lower body. Qin Xi clenched his jaw, mentally repeating to himself that he had to react in time. He had to. Qin Xi launched forward with explosive speed, his transformed limbs surging with power. Crimson claws flared at his hands and feet, crackling with energy as he dashed low toward his opponent. His eyes stayed locked ahead, focused and unflinching, fully committing to the parasite's advice to strike the lower body. But just as he moved in to land the blow, the officer was already one step ahead. In a blur of motion, he twisted mid-air and brought his leg crashing down with brutal precision. The strike connected before Qin Xi could fully react, sending shock waves through his body and hurling him back. Qin Xi crashed violently into a pile of metal bins, the force of the officer's kick sending him flying through the air. Trash and debris exploded around him as his body slammed hard into the heap, momentarily crumpling from the impact. Bruised but not broken, Qin Xi gritted his teeth and pushed himself back up. Just then, his parasite's voice rang out with calm reassurance, telling him not to worry, that it was here. Its dark, clawed form began to emerge once more, wrapping protectively around him as power surged back into his limbs. Still recovering, Qin Xi snapped at his parasite, telling it to shut up and stop giving useless advice. He grumbled that if it had been an ordinary person, that last strike would have definitely broken bones. Hovering behind him with a sulky expression, the parasite muttered back that it was the one who took the hit for him. As Qin Xi turned his gaze, he spotted the officer already mid-leap, rapidly closing the distance. His parasite's voice rang out urgently in his mind. He's coming. Qin Xi didn't flinch. Still crouched in the rubble, he locked his eyes on the incoming threat, his grip tightening around the battered shell of a small gas canister. His parasite's claws curled protectively along his arm, fusing around the canister as he readied himself to strike with whatever he had left. With zero hesitation, Qin Xi hurled the gas canister straight ahead, his parasite-enhanced arm whipping forward with deadly precision. His eyes stayed locked on the target, calculating, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But the officer wasn't about to be caught off guard by something that simple. With sharp reflexes and unbroken momentum, he batted the canister aside mid-charge, shattering it with a burst of raw force. His red eyes stayed locked on Qin Xi, undeterred and closing in fast. The officer burst forward through a cloud of thick smoke, his red eyes glowing with rage. The gas canister had exploded on impact, flooding the area with blinding fumes. Coughing and scowling, he growled in frustration, "Oh, you damn brat," as the smoke clouded his view and slowed his momentum. Then, bursting through the smoke, Qin Xi came down from above with a fierce roar, his claws raised and eyes blazing. He shouted that he hadn't fought in ages, and warned not to force him to. Surging with energy, he struck toward the officer. Qin Xi's strike landed with explosive force. Red energy flared around his claws as he drove into the officer mid-air, blow after blow crashing down. The impact lit up the sky with shock waves, the barrage pushing the officer back as jagged purple trails and golden bursts tore through the space around them. As the clash intensified, Qin Xi drove in with a vicious strike, his red claws slashing forward with relentless momentum. The officer raised his arms to block, struggling to hold his ground under the flurry. For the first time, the tide had turned. He was no longer pressing the assault, but fending off Qin Xi's explosive blows. The officer's boots scraped against the ground as he staggered backward, his footing slipping under the pressure of Qin Xi's assault. Each strike forced him to retreat, the momentum clearly shifting out of his control. Frustration built in the officer's face as he skidded to a halt, teeth clenched and fists tightening. He was no longer in control of the pace. Qin Xi's relentless assault was forcing him on the defensive, and the growing annoyance was starting to show. The officer tried to brace himself, but Qin Xi's relentless pressure finally broke through his guard. In that split second of vulnerability, Qin Xi's claws tore into him, ripping through his chest and shredding his armor. The officer staggered back, red eyes flaring with rage as the first real damage landed. Breathing heavily, Qin Xi steadied himself, his body bruised but still fired up. Huffing between clenched teeth, he declared he was still good to go. Behind him, his parasite spoke with smug pride, claiming there was no weapon in this world sharper than its claws. But then, suddenly, the officer erupted with a furious scream, his body engulfed in swirling purple flames as his energy surged violently. Gritting his teeth, he shouted that Qin Xi had really pissed him off. His form twisted with rage, eyes blazing red as he threatened to tear Qin Xi's body apart and rip him to shreds. Watching from a distance, Qin Xi stiffened, startled by the sudden shift, muttering under his breath as he tried to figure out what was wrong with the officer. Suddenly, a sinister aura flared behind the officer as the parasite within him began to surface. A monstrous, spectral figure loomed in the energy around him, eyes glowing with malicious glee. With a twisted laugh, it declared it could smell the parasitic spirit inside Qin Xi. He was a heteromorph. The officer's eyes snapped wide in shock as the revelation hit him, and he shouted, "What?" Qin Xi's parasitic spirit scoffed with a mocking laugh, sensing the shift in the battlefield. It jeered that the security agency clearly couldn't hold their ground with just their rusted scrap metal. They had to bring in outside help. Its tone was laced with contempt, amused at their desperation. As the two clashed mid-air, the parasitic spirit explained the truth behind the transformation. A parasitic spirit uses the host body to pursue its own liberation, its goal. But Qin Xi's earlier attack had disrupted that harmony. The balance between the host and the parasitic spirit had been shaken, leaving the officer's control unstable. Qin Xi's eyes widened in realization as he asked if he had just severed the connection between the host and the parasitic spirit, split them apart. His parasite confirmed it without hesitation. That early state of harmony, it explained, where host and spirit act as one, is known as concordance. And Qin Xi had just shattered it. Dark energy exploded outward as the officer's body twisted violently, engulfed in a raging vortex. Qin Xi's parasite explained that all the pain, endurance, and fury was now being unleashed in one uncontrollable moment. Though the concordance had been shaken, the connection hadn't been fully severed. Something still linked the host to the parasitic spirit, and that fragment was now lashing out. Snarling with rage, the officer, now fully transformed into a monstrous, beast-like form, bared his fangs and shouted his demand to hand over the parasitic spirit inside Qin Xi, or be killed. His voice thundered with primal fury, eyes glowing red, and muscles tensed, as if ready to rip Qin Xi apart. The last sliver of rational control seemed gone. Qin Xi stared at the transformed officer, a chill running down his spine. His mind flashed back to the scene in the train car. This condition was the same. Full beastification. The man had pushed himself so far in desperation that the parasitic spirit had completely taken over his body. In a blur of movement, the beast lunged at Qin Xi with blinding speed. Its glowing red eyes locked onto him, fangs bared and aimed straight for the kill. Qin Xi barely had a moment to react as the monstrous figure closed in from behind. The beast's strike landed cleanly. Qin Xi was sent hurtling through the air, a burst of force exploding against his back as he screamed in pain. The impact left him reeling, completely overwhelmed by the sheer power of the attack. Still airborne from the blow, Chinshi gritted his teeth and shouted mid-flight, demanding a position. Desperation flared in his voice as he relied on his parasite to guide him. He needed a target, a direction, anything to counter. Qin Xi crashed down, skidding harshly across the ground as debris scattered in his wake. He barely managed to stay upright, digging his claws into the dirt to slow his momentum, while the beast's overwhelming force loomed just behind him. Just as the beast lunged in again, Qin Xi's parasite shouted a warning. Left side! Qin Xi snapped his eyes wide, catching the blur of the incoming strike just in time. But even with the warning, Qin Xi couldn't dodge in time. A barrage of powerful blows slammed into him from the side, each strike twisting his body mid-air. His face contorted with pain as he was launched backwards, overwhelmed by the sheer force behind the beast's relentless assault. Qin Xi gritted his teeth, trying to withstand the brutal onslaught, but even his parasite was starting to falter. With a tense expression, the spirit warned that if this kept up, it wouldn't last either. Their shared endurance was being pushed to its limit. With grit in his voice and determination burning in his eyes, Qin Xi pushed back up and shouted a fierce declaration. Then, "Let's go all in." Qin Xi dropped low, dodging just in time as a massive strike came crashing down from above. The force of the blow shattered the ground where he'd been standing, debris exploding upward in its wake. His stance tightened, ready to unleash everything he had. Qin Xi's parasite surged with power, his claws extending and crackling with energy. The red blades gleamed with lethal intent, flaring as he channeled everything into a single decisive strike. With a fierce battle cry, Qin Xi hurled himself downward, claws surging with explosive energy. His body cut through the air like a missile, aiming not just to strike, but to intercept and stop the enemy's incoming attack head-on. Every pulse of power from his claws roared with urgency as he braced to clash mid-air. Just as he launched the interception, Qin Xi unleashed everything he had. With his parasitic spirit flaring behind him and golden energy surging through his eyes, he let out a powerful yell, "Ya-hey!" driving his momentum forward with unmatched force. The impact was coming, and he was meeting it head-on. Qin Xi gathered his strength and braced himself. With a fierce roar, he slammed his clawed hand upward, meeting the charge head-on. The impact exploded with raw force, not only halting the beast's momentum but reversing it completely, sending him hurtling backward. The officer's body blasted out of the alley, crashing through the wall at the far end and soaring across the city street. He tore past stunned pedestrians, narrowly missing parked cars before slamming into the side of a vehicle with a deafening crash. The ground trembled and the air filled with dust and scattered debris. Qin Xi exhaled sharply, wiping the sweat from his brow as he caught his breath. That had been close. Too close. His body still tense from the clash, he muttered to himself in relief. Behind him, his parasitic spirit let out a chuckle, proudly pointing out that their coordination was improving. The bond between them was clearly deepening with each battle. A small smirk crept onto Qin Xi's face as he glanced toward his companion. With a calm but confident tone, he acknowledged the spirit's remark, saying it was just what he'd expect. Despite the exhaustion, there was a flicker of pride behind his eyes. He was starting to truly trust their teamwork. A crowd gathered in stunned silence around the impact site. The delivery truck's side panel was shattered inward, its frame crumpled from the force of the collision. Wisps of smoke and dust lingered in the air, marking the trail of destruction that had spilled out from the alley behind. Qin Xi lingered near the alley's edge, peeking around the corner to check the aftermath. His eyes followed the damage trail to the wrecked truck, gauging whether the officer would rise again or if the blow had truly taken him out. But as the crowd started to build up, Chinshi tried to push forward to confirm the officer's condition, only to stop short in surprise. The truck was still there, shattered from the impact, but the beast was gone. Eyes widening, Chinshi blurted out in disbelief, demanding how the officer could have disappeared again. Still alert, Chinshi kept moving through the alley, eyes darting around as he searched for any sign of the officer. But just then, the blur of a figure appeared high above, fast, dark, and descending. Chinshi's eyes sharpened as something suddenly caught his attention. His expression shifted with a jolt of realization. He had found the beast's location. Before Chinshi could fully react, the parasitic spirit alerted him, in front. In the next instant, the beast came crashing down from above, slamming into the ground right before him with murderous force, eyes glowing red and claws poised to strike. With his parasitic senses heightened and his target locked in, Chinshi's eyes blazed with confidence. He launched forward with a wild grin, shouting that he could feel it. His instincts, his timing, his power, all aligned. Slashing down in a sharp X formation, his dual claws carved through the air in a devastating counterattack. As the dust began to settle, Chinji stood facing the swirling remnants of his strike. But something felt off. The form ahead twisted and shimmered unnaturally, as if it weren't solid. His eyes narrowed. Whatever he had just hit, it wasn't the real beast. Chinshi's eyes widened in alarm as realization struck. What he had attacked was nothing but an illusion. Shouting in shock, he recognized it instantly. It was an afterimage. Just as the truth hit him, a chilling voice whispered from the shadows, "I'm right behind you." Chinshi froze in alarm as the real beast emerged directly at his back, towering over him with glowing red eyes and a sinister grin. This is the end of this video. If you like the video, please don't forget to like and subscribe.